In today's episode, we will discuss the second part of the parameters in the Configuration Basic tab regarding the engine options and sensors sections. You can go to the Configuration Basic window by clicking on the tab or using the F7 shortcut. In this window, you will find the necessary and most important parameters needed for the correct setting of the gas installation in the car. Starting from the top, you will find the Engine Options section. Petrol Injection Cutoff option, only for indirect injection controller. We use in engines, where after main injection follows short fuel injections called secondary injections. If the engine has gasoline secondary injections and this option is unmarked, the gasoline injection times are unstable and have alternately small and large values. Small values of about 1 to 1.5 milliseconds means time of secondary injections. Select the length of the secondary injections at a level slightly larger than that shown on the readings. From NEVO-SKY 5.0 2.0, additional information is available in the form of 2 sirens. The first of them informs that the injection was ignored because it was shorter than the cutoff threshold. The second informs about the probable detection of an injection greater than the cutoff threshold. These signals allow for a more precise determination at what level the injection cutoff threshold should be set. Remember, in the indirect injection controllers on the side panel of the readings, the detection of gasoline injections is signaled, plus controlled petrol injectors. For indirect injection controllers only, necessary to obtain correct readings of gasoline injection times used in cars, where gasoline injectors are controlled by pleasant 12-valve signals, active positive signal, not ground. Turbo provides additional functionality for turbocharged engines taking into account the values of overpressure, boost pressure. For many gas controller algorithms, Mazda, indirect injection controller only, option provided for engines changing the type of injection system from sequential to semi-sequential or full group, which is often for Mazda cars from the turn of the year 2000. Hemi Eco operation despite the lack of signal from the gasoline injector. Select this option for engines that can turn off half of their cylinders to reduce gasoline consumption. E.g. 5.7 Hemi engine, indirect injection, Mazda Sky Active after 2018, direct injection, or VAG 1.5 TSI group, direct injection. Valvetronic provides additional functionality for Valvetronic motors without vacuum. It allows the system to work without a vacuum connected to the reducer, only engines without turbo. Start and stop. Option designed for cars that automatically turn off the engine when stationary and start it immediately when starting. It causes a faster switch to gas when the engine is restarted. When this option is active and it is detected, the engine turn off by start and stop. Switching to gas after restarting will ignore the rotation and load conditions. This switch to gas after restarting will ignore the rotation and load conditions. The Sensors section allows you to choose the right sensors for your gas installation. Pressure sensor. Select the type of pressure sensor installed. The magnifying glass button will help you determine the right sensor installed in your car. Remember, the colors of the controller housing and the sensor housing should match. For controllers in gray housing, drivers Diego, NEVO-SKY Jet, Max Direct use a gray sensor. And for systems in a black housing, NEVO Family and NEVO-SKY Sun Controller, a black temperature sensor. Selection of the gas temperature sensor from the list of available. Remember, the CCT6 pressure sensor has an integrated gas temperature measurement sensor with a value of 4.7 K ohm. Reducer temperature sensor. Selection of the reducer temperature sensor from the list of available. Remember, Set includes 4.7K ohm reducer sensor. Remember, in the case of connecting controllers in the master-slave system using one temperature sensor, gas or reducer, its type should be changed as such a connection affects the temperature read. For example, for a 4.7K sensor connected in parallel to two controllers, the sensor type 10K should be selected in them. After pressing the banks, the program opens the bank configuration window. The window gives you the opportunity to make additional corrections for selected cylinders. Cylinder assignments to banks, necessary when activating OSA adaptation in two bank engines and when using correction maps for bank 2, and the introduction of a correction for the bank 2. Remember, if you use the OSA adaptation mechanism in the two-bank engine, remember to assign individual cylinders to the right banks, correction for bank 2. It is used to equalize the work of banks in two-bank engines, which have two lambda sensors before the catalyst. Select the injectors that belong to the other bank and specify the correction value. By what the gas injection time values for gas injectors in the second bank will be changed. To determine to which bank the cylinder belongs, you need to switch the system to gas. Mark any one cylinder, for example the first, as belonging to bank 2, and make any adjustment for bank 2, for example plus 3 ms. Next, check whether the short-term adjustment of the first or second bank changes. If the adjustment of the first bank has changed, it should be considered that the selected cylinder belongs to bank 1. If, on the other hand, the adjustment of bank 2 has changed, it should be considered that the selected cylinder belongs to the other bank. In this way, all cylinders should be tested. As an alternative to the test, a cylinders breaker can be used, OBD controllers only. If the system detects settings related to the assignment of cylinders to banks that appear to be incorrect, will display relevant warnings at the bottom of the window. Cylinders breaker allows you to completely cut the gasoline injector when working on gasoline. It should be used only to check the correctness of connecting the gas controller to gasoline injectors. To check the connection using the breaker, an OBD connection and a running engine are required. After disconnecting the corresponding cylinder, an error should be noted in the OBD from the disconnected gasoline injector. In this way, it is necessary to check all cylinders in turn, deleting the previous OBD errors. Remember, for this operation, work on gasoline is required. For direct systems, it is absolutely required. Correct connection of the gas controller petrol injector channels to the appropriate cylinders. Regarding the diagnosis of OBD, 11223344. For dual system cars, direct injection plus indirect injection, you may need to enable ECN emulation in advance, EMUL tab, and checking the option Force Emulation on Petrol to force the car to work on the direct system at idle on gasoline. Remember, in some cars the cylinder breaker may not cause an OBD error. Even after prolonged operation with the cylinder switched off, e.g. cars from the Renault-Nissan Dacia group. In this case, check the connection manually by disconnecting the gasoline injector circuit. To confirm, you can use the unplugging the ignition coil plugs. In the next episode, we'll tell you about the options for switching to gas and gasoline in the Configuration Switching tab. If this episode was helpful to you, we invite you to subscribe and enable notifications so that you get information about the publication of the next part. Greetings, KME Academy team.